Welcome to episode 1, Why I Practice Yoga and Meditation. So, there are a multitude of reasons why I practice yoga on a daily basis, why I meditate on a daily basis. But there's three of my most important reasons, three of my main reasons, and I'll be discussing those with you today. So, the first is that yoga and meditation, they remind me to pause, to slow down, to be present, to reflect and show gratitude for not only being alive, but for having the experiences that I've had in my life, for the people that are in my life, for the opportunities that have presented themselves. And it's one of the things that I love the most about yoga and meditating is that pause that happens, that you take the time to actually just sit and be with yourself, with whatever arises, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's emotional. You are taking the time out to feel into those sensations and to reflect on what those sensations mean for you. What it is that you're feeling in your body, whether it's, something physical. Why am I experiencing this? Why is this happening to me? If certain emotions arise, it's, why am I feeling this way? Why is this happening? And it creates this space for you to really be able to answer those questions, to reflect on them, to try and figure out this great mystery that is life that's happening to us and around us all the time. And within that, it allows you to start to notice that life is always going to continue to happen around you, but how do you perceive it? How do you see the things that are happening to you? How can you view them? Can you view them through a different lens? And that for me is one of the greatest experiences that I have noticed over the past, 15, 20 years that I've been practicing yoga. And I will say this, my yoga practice, I started practicing yoga back in 2004 when I was pregnant with twins. That's when I really started to get into yoga. I'd tried a yoga class here and there, taken a little YMCA yoga course, and I'd taken the classes at the Y, but never really seriously. It was when I was pregnant with twins in 2004 that I wanted to really experience the benefits of yoga, because it was one of the things that my doctor had said, try yoga, because I had been, competing in fitness competitions. I was in the gym every day. I was lifting. I was doing like an hour of cardio every single day. And I needed something different because my body was changing very rapidly when I found out I was pregnant at 13 weeks. And she was like, why don't you give yoga a try? And so my first yoga class was a Kundalini yoga class, and I absolutely loved it. Like I fell in love. I felt this deep connection, not only with myself, but with this process of, growing these babies and of shifting into motherhood. And it was amazing. And I felt fantastic afterwards. And I started to dive a little deeper into, the benefits of what prenatal yoga, what Kundalini yoga could do for me. And here I am, it's now 2021. And obviously I enjoyed yoga so much that I decided to become a yoga teacher and to share the things that I had learned, throughout the past, my goodness, yes, my children are now 17, so 17 years later. And every time that I come back to my yoga practice, because there are times when I drift and I notice that I feel like I'm in this chaotic state. And when I come back to the yoga, when I come back to the meditation, I feel like I'm able to create order out of the chaos that happens around me. And so when I say that yoga and meditation remind me to do this pause, to be present in the moment, to reflect and to be grateful and to show gratitude, that's, my whole experience as a yoga student, because I'm always a yoga student first, and also as a yoga teacher, is all the things that I've learned over the past 17 years of diving deeper into this thing called yoga and trying to understand what it is and what it has done for me and what it can continue to do for me, is remind me to just pause, take a moment, be present, and reflect. So that, I would say, is the first greatest benefit, or reason why I continue to practice yoga and to meditate on a daily basis. The second thing that yoga has taught me or allowed me to experience is it allows me to disconnect from the world around me. And that's important because, again, like I said, life is always happening around us. And we have a choice to decide whether we allow life to happen to us and how we respond and how we react to that. And that's important. So I disconnect from the world around me, withdraw those senses, and I start to draw my awareness inward so that I can focus my attention on where I am physically, mentally, and emotionally in the moment. In the moment. Because yoga only occurs, or it only happens in the moment of now, when we are fully present and aware of our bodies and where our bodies are in space. So that is number two, one of the biggest things. It also allows me to not focus on what has happened in the past and to not worry about what's going to occur in the future, because I can't change the past and I have no control over what's going to happen in the future. But what I do have control over is the present and how I am in the present moment. And how I am in the present moment does and can affect the future. And so I have this philosophy, or, I personally believe that the more positive that I am in the present moment, the more present and aware I am in the moment of now, the more of a positive future that I can create for myself and for those around me. And it's interesting how I've been able to kind of contrast the difference between myself and how I've learned to live in the present and to be present and aware, and living in the moment, because I think that that is important. I think it's important to plan for the future, but I also believe that there is, like anything, there can always be too much of something. So too much living in the moment, too much worrying about the future, that there's balance, and that's, sattva, that's balance. We need balance. So there's a balance of, being present and a balance of planning for the future, but we can only plan so much. And like I was saying, being able to see that in contrast is, I'm going to bring my ex-husband into this. Yes, my ex-husband was a planner. And he was always planning, always planning, always planning for next year, for 6 months down the road, 3 months down the road, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years. And he was so focused on the future, the future, the future, that he was rarely ever present, rarely ever fully present. And he missed out on so much by not being present, specifically with our children. And it's sad to see that, because it really did affect their relationship. He was never really present, never really present, never really present. Even if he was there, he was not fully present. His mind was always somewhere else. And they could feel that, and I could feel that. And after years and years and years of that, of someone not being fully present, it gets old. And that's one of the reasons why he's my ex-husband. But being able to see that from the outside, as someone who was part of the situation, but also being able to kind of witness this disconnect with being fully present in the moment and how that can affect relationships. And it wasn't just his relationship with his children, it was relationship with, coworkers and, associates, with his family. That was something that definitely affects the relationships with the people around him, because he was never present. He was always worrying about the future, and he had a really hard time letting go of things that had happened in the past. And just watching that unfold over the 12 years that we were married, it had negative effects on a lot of different people, that he came into contact with. So I think that that's really important. And I'm bringing this up to say that being able to let go of things that have happened in the past is essential. That is for you. It is not for other people. That letting go of things that have happened in the past, that is for you, so that you can move forward with your life, with a positive outlook. And so a lot of times there's this, I think there's this misconception about like forgiveness and forgiving people. It's not for the other person. That forgiveness and letting go and releasing things that have happened in the past, that's for you. You get to hold on to the positive effects of releasing and allowing yourself to be happy in the moment. Not to say that you'll ever forget about those things that have happened in the past, especially negative things, but just recognizing that when you let go of those things from your heart, it allows you to move forward in a positive way. And so, and again, not worrying about the future, because you can't predict the future. Maybe some of you out there can, and that's awesome. But the more positive that we are in the moment of now, focusing on where we are in the moment, creates a more positive future, or at least that's how I, see things. And especially when I reflect back to, the situation with my ex-husband and the relationships that he had, you can't go back and fix those. You can't. And if you have a really hard time, again, being present, it's difficult to fix those even in the future. You can think, all right, well, in the future, it'll be a better relationship, or in the future, I can fix it. No, the time is now to be present with the people that are in your life, the people that mean the most to you, being present and aware for them, for yourself and for them. And in contrast, my current partner, he has a saying that has really started to stick with me. And his saying is, time is the one thing you can never get back. Time is the one thing you can never get back. You can't change what's already happened. The time that you've spent on things, that time you can't get it back. But the time that you are spending in the present moment, that is time that is with you right then. And when he first said that to me, I did relate it back to yoga, and yoga occurring only in the moment of now. And it resonated with me a lot. And it's actually, I've kind of taken on that saying of saying time is the one thing that you can never get back, because it does make sense. And it's important to note that. So that is the second thing that I have recognized with yoga, is disconnecting from the world around me, drawing my senses inward, and paying attention and focusing my awareness on where I am physically, mentally, and emotionally in the moment of now, and actually spiritually as well. And it's made such a difference in my life. And I'm always grateful for this practice of yoga, for this practice of meditation, for this daily sadhana that I have built, because it's allowed me to grow into, I would say, a pretty powerful, badass woman, and mother. And I wasn't those things. I think I've always been a great mother. Was I a great wife? Probably not. Was I a great daughter? Probably no, I know I wasn't. I think I've always been a pretty decent friend, but I do believe that the growth that I've experienced over the past 17 years, I will give a lot of that to yoga and meditating for the first two reasons that I've already stated. So, all right. The third reason that I have a daily yoga and meditation practice and why it's so important in my life is that as a busy mother of three, it creates space for me to remember who I am at my core, who I am, not Nina the daughter, not Nina the partner, not Nina the mother, not Nina the yoga teacher or the reproductive health educator, who I am. It reminds me to reconnect with my dreams, with my desires, with my passions, and to remember that even though I can't stop pain and heartache from showing up in my life, but that I get to choose. I get to choose whether or not to suffer in that pain. Pain and heartache is always going to present itself in some way or another, whether it's, stress, or whether it's, issues with family or in your relationship, or, arguments with your children. That is pain and heartache. It's things that don't make us happy or that bring unhappiness into our lives. But you have a choice in how you respond, because you can either respond or react. You get to choose how you respond to pain and heartache. You get to choose, how you deal with it and how you move past it and how you shift things around for yourself. And yoga reminds me that I have that choice, that I get to remember, happiness that I've experienced throughout my life and remember who I am. And at my core, I am a happy, thriving person. Life is happening around me, and sometimes that does bring unhappiness into my life. But, and not to say that you always have a choice, because bad things do happen in life, and sometimes life is just full of crap. But that you have a choice, that you get to choose. And that is a privilege. I will say that, because there are some people that just live in situations that are just unbearable. And then on the flip side of that, I've seen people that live in situations that I myself look at like, wow, and they're happier than a lot of people that I know. And that, not that that amazes me, but that it just goes to show that when we remember who we are and what life is really about and what's really important to us in particular, not what's important to other people, but what is important to you, what makes you happy, what drives you, who are you, and how you remember that. How you remember to find your way back to your happiness, that matters. And sometimes that's all that matters, is that you remind yourself how to find your way back to your own happiness. Because things, people, places, they may bring on some temporary happiness, but happiness comes from within you. And when you remember who you really are and what brings you happiness, and how you can create your own happiness in a multitude of different situations, it makes life so much more enjoyable. So it's important for me in my yoga and meditation practice as well that my children see that. It's important to me that they see me practicing yoga, that they see me meditating, that they see me pausing and taking time out, so that they know what it can do for them as well. When they see the transformations that's happening within me, when they see, hey, mom was a little off today and mom went and did yoga and she meditated and she's a little different mom, now that she's finished her yoga practice, now that she's meditated, now that she's taken that time out, for herself. they see that shift, they see that transformation, and they understand the importance of why I do what I do on, a daily basis, why this practice of yoga and meditation is so important to me. And so I appreciate that. And I encourage any of you out there who have ever been curious about yoga, who've been curious about meditation, to, hop on YouTube, to find that yoga studio, to, listen to that meditation recording, to download that app. I love Liberate app, the Liberate app. It's fantastic. Some really great meditation yoga teachers on there. There's Insight Timer. There's so many great applications out there and ways in which you can explore your own yoga and meditation practice. So I encourage every single woman, especially women of color, to explore what yoga and meditation can do for them. And I know a lot of times you'll hear like, well, I don't know how to get started, or I'm not flexible. That's one of the things that I hear the most is I'm not flexible. Yoga's not for me. It's not about the postures. It's the postures are there to help you get to the point of letting go of your thoughts, letting go of those sensations, withdrawing from the world around you. That's the point of the asana. The postures, the physical part of the practice, is to prepare you for the meditation so that you can move into those last 4 limbs of yoga. And I'll talk about the 8 limbs of yoga in a different video, or a different podcast episode. So you'll get to hear about the 8 limbs of yoga later and what those mean to me. But if you don't know how to get started, look for a yoga for beginners class or a yoga for beginners series. Look for a yoga teacher that represents you. And I mean that in mind, body, and spirit. Because a lot of times when you hop on the internet, when you hop on YouTube, when you hop on Instagram, you're going to see a lot of yoga teachers that don't look like you and don't represent you and your body type. And I think that that's one of the scariest, or one of the biggest hindrances of women getting into yoga is, I don't look like that. I can't do that. Find a yoga teacher that represents you, that you resonate with, you like their teaching style, you like the sound of their voice, you see a reflection of you in their body type, and that will allow you to create a consistent practice when you can connect with the yoga teacher. Another thing that you can do is you can, well, I don't think we have DVDs anymore, but you can buy a yoga series from one of those teachers. You can go, try out a yoga class at a couple of different studios. You can hop on YouTube. There are so many options out there for you to begin to explore your own personal yoga journey. So that's my tip on, trying out yoga. And then as far as meditation goes, this is always the one I hear a lot of. I just don't want to sit. I can't sit. I can't see myself just, sitting there. My mind is all over the place. I'm thinking about what I need to get from the grocery store, what time I need to pick the kids up. Meditation it can be a lot of different things. It can look like a lot of different things. Meditation and getting into a meditative state is focused awareness on one thing. Focused awareness on one thing. So knitting, crocheting, walking, cycling, swimming, Kundalini Kriyas can be a meditation, whirling meditations. There's so many different things that can be meditative. Even reading, listening to music. Sometimes I listen to heavy metal. Sometimes I listen to go-go music. It really just depends on what type of mood I'm in and how I need to focus my awareness. And it looks different for me on any given day. So you can try things like Yoga Nidra. And with Yoga Nidra, you're lying down. I love Yoga Nidra. The benefits of Yoga Nidra are amazing. Just 30 minutes of Yoga Nidra is equivalent to about 2 to 4 hours of sleep. Yes, Yoga Nidra is the best thing that you could ever try. It improves your sleep. It can improve your menstrual cycle because it helps you to balance your hormones. It is amazing. Yoga Nidra is one of my favorite meditative practices. So Yoga Nidra is one thing. Meditation does not have to look like you sitting cross-legged, very still, upright, long spine. It does not have to look like that. The other thing that you can try is driving. Driving can be meditative. Sometimes I don't necessarily recommend that. Like, don't ever try Yoga Nidra while you're driving. But driving can be meditative, especially if you live in a scenic area. For me, I'm originally from Delaware, and whenever my mind was going crazy, I loved to hop in my car, and we have lots of back roads going through the woods, and I would just drive on those back roads, especially in the fall when the leaves were changing colors, or, when it was a light rain outside. And it's beautiful. I love my state. I miss it so much now that I'm, living in the deserts of Kuwait. But driving was very meditative for me. Driving in Kuwait is absolutely not meditative. I would not recommend driving in Kuwait as a meditative practice. But if you live somewhere that's scenic, driving it's like an escape. It can allow you to, disconnect from the world around you, especially if you can get to a remote area where you can just sit and enjoy nature, the natural world around you. If you're within walking distance of a place that you find sacred and meditative, then you can walk to that place, and you don't have to sit. You can walk, you can dance, you can, feel on the trees and the grass or whatever it is that's around you. Being in a sacred space is meditative. You can create your own sacred space if you don't have one, or, if you live in a busy city and it is hard for you to escape. Create a meditative space within your space. You can use crystals, candles, statues, and scents and sounds and colors and things that bring you into a state of calm and into a state of just being with yourself, within yourself. And I feel like that's the most important aspect of meditating, is getting to a point where no matter where you are your sacred space. Your body is your sacred space, and you can retreat and withdraw into yourself and meditate. And I think that is the beauty, one of the many beauties of this yoga and meditation becoming a daily practice, is that in the end, you do recognize that everything that you need is within you. And it is empowering when you start to realize that, and when you start to recognize that I can withdraw into myself. I can just be with myself. I can create my own happiness. That, to me, is the most important thing that I've learned about yoga and meditation, and why it has become a part of my daily life, and why I recommend it again to every woman out there, especially, again, women of color. So just to reiterate, those 3 reasons why I practice yoga and meditation is that it reminds me to pause, to be present, to reflect, and to show gratitude. It allows me to disconnect from the outside world, to draw my awareness inward and be present in the moment of now. And it creates space for me to remember who I truly am at my core, and that I am in charge of my own happiness, and that I can choose how I respond to pain and heartache. So those are my top 3 reasons for practicing yoga. And I hope to see you and hear you and talk to you in the next episode.